Well, it's been 6 months. Do I still think the T120 is the perfect motorcycle? Well, stay tuned and we'll find out. Hello everybody. Today I'm going to talk to you about my T120. I've had the T120 for about 6 months now. I've got about 1,600 miles on it. I'm very pleased with it. Is it absolutely perfect? No. No motorcycle will ever be absolutely perfect. But it is so close. And the things that I'd like to see improved really aren't deal killers. Would I buy it again? Yes, I'd buy it again. If there was ever a motorcycle that you might consider as your forever motorcycle, this is it. It just about does everything. We went on a long 330-mile ride a few weeks back. Didn't miss a beat. Was it comfortable? Well, it would have been a lot more comfortable if I had this Madstad windshield on at the time, but I got through it. The bike is easy to ride. That's one thing about it. Whether you're in heavy traffic or out tootling along on a Sunday afternoon ride, the bike is easy to ride. In fact, many people have said, they've commented that, well, maybe the T120 could be a beginner bike. Well, I'm not going to advocate that, but I tell you, if you happen to buy a T120 as your first bike, you may have just bought the last bike you're ever going to have to buy, because it does everything. Want to go touring? No problem. Throw some bags on it and away you go. Want to hang out at the local bike night? Throw your leg over it and go. Want to just do some Sunday afternoon riding? No problem. It does it all. It does it all. What do I think are the positive points of the T120? Well, first is the weight. It's very manageable. Second, it's easy to roll around the garage, so you can move it around without killing yourself. It handles very easily. I had a CB450 Honda when I was going through high school and college, and at the time, I didn't really appreciate what that bike was. But now that I look back on it, that was a hell of a well-engineered bike. Well, the T120 reminds me a lot of it. Everything on it makes sense, almost. There's a few minor things I'd like to see improved, but they're not deal killers. It's comfortable. The mid pegs allow you to stand up, and that's important because when you're old like me, your hips hurt when you ride too far and you got to stand up and straighten them out. The side stand works pretty good, and I love the center stand. You got to have a center stand on a chain drive bike. The brakes are excellent. I feel very confident that I can keep myself out of trouble in a panic stop. It handles well, corners well. I haven't really got a chance to put it through a lot of corners, but I can tell you it feels very, very planted. Now, a lot of people complain about the stock tires. I got the Pirellis on my bike. I don't know if that makes a difference, but when I go to put on new tires, I'll upgrade to something a little more expensive. In fact, I think if you're going to put extra money in the bike, put it into a really good set of tires. I think that will give you the most bang for your buck. This bike came with the risers on it, like handlebar risers, and they're just right. As you can see, I raised my mirrors up 2 inches with some mirror extenders, and I can look behind on both sides, and you can see, I can see behind me just fine. Not looking at my shoulders like when the stock mirrors are there. A lot of people like those bar end mirrors, but honestly, guys, I could never make those work for me. I guess I'm too old to change the mirrors out there. The stock mirrors work great for me. They're well made. I'm pretty happy with them. The bike gets acceptable gas mileage. I'll get about 43. One of the things about this bike is I'm constantly complimented how pretty it is. Everybody walks up to it and says, wow, isn't that a pretty motorcycle? Honestly, I've seen more pretty paint jobs on the Triumphs in past years than this one. I didn't think it was really all that spectacular, but everybody seems to like it. I do think the T120 is a great motorcycle. Now, is it absolutely perfect? No, there's a few things that I think could be improved. So why don't we talk a little bit about some things I'd like to see improved, and then we'll talk about just what a great bike it is. When you're cruising along down the road and just with no traffic or anything, the throttle's fine. But when you're in a group and you're trying to match speeds with someone else, that fine adjustment in the throttle isn't there. I mean, I was riding along, we were going out on a group ride, and I had a guy in front of me and I wanted to slow down just a hair to match his speed, and I let off the throttle. Nothing happened. I just kept running right on the back of him. Another problem is in slow speed maneuvers, like if you're trying to go 25 miles an hour in a residential subdivision, it feels vague. It feels like it searches, and that's not a good feeling. One of the things I'd like to see done a little bit better on the T120 is this fender. You know, it doesn't come down far enough to protect the undercarriage of the bike. So I had to add this extension to it, which wasn't hard to do, but it's expensive. It's $35. And I think that, come on, Triumph, you know, why would it have been that much more expensive to extend the fender down just a little bit so that it would work well? Another thing this bike has is an automatic fuel mileage calculator built into the instruments. Now, I think they need to put out a little advisory on this fuel mileage calculator that's built into the Speedo, because it's a little optimistic. I check the mileage when I go ride by filling up the gas tank and then looking at the mileage that's on my trip meter, and then of course I divide it into miles per gallon. I consistently get about 43 miles per gallon actual, whereas the automatic calculator that's built onto the bike is consistently about 10 miles over. It'll read 50 miles to the gallon or 51 miles to the gallon when I'm reading about 43. I think a lot of people are relying on that calculation and are quoting that as, or at least they think that's the mileage their T120 is getting. I challenge each of you to go out there and fill your bike up and calculate the mileage that you're actually getting, just to make sure that your calculator that's built into the Speedo is accurate. Another issue I have is the adjustment of the chain. You have to take the mufflers off the bike in order to adjust the chain. That is not good maintainability, particularly since adjusting the chain is one of the most frequent jobs an owner has to do. You would think that Triumph would have realized that frequent maintenance jobs should be easy, not having anything obstructing or preventing them, but they did not get that message. You know, one of the things I'd like to see Triumph do is put a belt drive on this bike. I know that that would cost a lot of money probably, and that the chain is the lower cost option. Can someone explain to me why we can't have a dipstick in the engine to check oil level with, instead of this impossible to see window that you had to put the bike up on the center stand and crawl around underneath it to check the oil? That's silliness. There's another black mark for lack of maintainability. Another issue that I'm not real enthused about is how low the brake pedal is. It takes a little bit of getting used to. It's not a deal killer. I mean, you can get used to it, but I'd really like to see the brake pedal a little higher. You know, one of the things that I've noticed about this bike is that it seems that Triumph has done its best to keep the price low, but in order to do that, they've had to cut some corners, like that front fender, chain drive, and a few other little things around the bike that when you see it, you just think, oh, they've cut a corner here. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the positives. One of the things you've noticed is I put a Madstad windshield on the bike, and I tell you, I really like it. It knocks off the wind in long runs, and it keeps it keeps the wind off of you when you're out there riding on a long day, and it really increases the enjoyment. I got a video that shows how to put this on, and I'll link that to this video. So with 1,600 miles under the belt, 6 months of ownership, what's my final conclusion? Well, in the end, I have to say that I'm very pleased with my purchase. I'm very pleased with the T120. I love riding it. I know there's a lot of folks out there that they have the T120s and they really like them. A lot of people like to mod them. I really don't want to add any mods to the bike. It's pretty much complete as far as I'm concerned for my riding needs. But you know, each to your own. Yeah, it lends itself to that. Lots of accessories out there, but they are not cheap. I'll tell you that. This isn't a perfect motorcycle, but it's damn sure close. Every time I get on it, it reminds me of why I bought it. So until next time, from Riding on a Budget, you ride safe, and we'll see you down the road.